So this is part 3 of chapter 5 about the Ethernet. And this is about the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP. The purpose of ARP is to translate from our two different types of addresses, which is IP addresses and MAC addresses, and then keep a table of the mappings between these two addresses, because on an Ethernet we always use the MAC address to send and receive data, but our applications normally only know about our IP addresses. So if one of the computer here wants to send something to another, well, then they only have their IP addresses, but somehow they also need to have the MAC address. And to be able to do so, they will look first of all into their own MAC ARP table, which is created on each and every device. If there are no records of these source IP address, well, then it will need to find the mapping of the IP address. So then it will send out a broadcast, an ARP request on the network, and the node which has the given IP will answer back. If we don't get a response back on the ARP request, well, then we will know that the packet or the IP address does not exist on this time on the network. We could also create a static map, a static ARP table, but it is rarely done because maintaining something with MAC addresses contains a lot of work, because the MAC addresses is not very simple to work with. So normally we will not do that. So here, host A wants to send something to the IP address 10.10.03 but has no ARP entry. So it will start looking into its ARP table and see that this is empty. Then it will send a request out on the network and asking who has 10.10.03. And in this case, this is host C. So here is just to show the broadcast. Broadcast is sent out to all devices on the network. Then host C will answer back, well, this is me. I have IP address 10.10.03, and here is my reply, and here is my MAC address. And then this MAC address will be put in to the ARP table, the ARP cache on host A, so that it now knows the MAC address. And then it can send the unicast directly to host C, because it now knows that the MAC address of host C. So in these types of networks where we are connected to the same network, the same LAN, well, then of course we will broadcast the IP address out on the LAN and ask who has it. If this IP address is not on our local network, our own local network, we can see that of the network portion of the IP address. If that is different than my own, well, then the ARP request will be sent, or the default gateway will answer back on our ARP request, sending the IP or the MAC address of the default gateway back to the one who asks about the IP address. So in these cases, the gateway will answer back. Here, so in this case here, I want to send something to something that's not, or if in this case, when something is removed, well, in this case here, this is a local request. So we remove host C, and of course it is important that the entry of our MAC address table or the ARP table also will be removed. So there is a timer who says that when something is getting old, well, then we will remove that from the ARP table, and also we can clear it manually. If you want to see the content of the ARP table, well, then there is in Windows, you can just say show, no, not in Windows, but you can say ARP -A, On a router or on a switch, you can see you can use show IP ARP, and then it will show you the content of the ARP table. And you will see here that this is just a mapping between the IP address in one column and the MAC addresses in the other. ARP can create problems because if we have a huge network, a huge LAN with a lot of devices, they will all create a lot of broadcasts. So if we have a large network, the ARP is a big problem because of the broadcast. It can also be a part of security. There is some threats that can actually disguise themselves as ARP requests and ask out and get information about devices. Or I can send, if someone sends out an ARP request who has this IP, I can answer even though it's not mine, just so that I know then I will receive all the data who were supposed to be sent to this IP address. That is called ARP spoofing. So there are security issues as well with the ARP protocol. To be able to solve some of these problems, especially the one with the broadcast, we can just divide our network into smaller segments, and then we can divide them by routers or by network addresses, and then I can make sure that these broadcasts are maintained within one segment. So that is normally what we do, is that we will segment our network into smaller parts. And that was chapter 5, part 3. Thank you.